My mic is muted. Luckily, I found it, but you can tell I've lost my voice a little bit. I was at the Eagles game last night. Eagles playing the Cowboys. Sorry to all you Cowboys fans out there, but the Eagles won. I have to admit, I'm not a true Eagles fan. I grew up in Virginia, so grew up a Washington Redskins fan, but I've lived up in Philly for many years now, so have slowly, been enjoying the Eagles. But it's almost impossible to root for them because the Washington Redskins, now the Commanders, are in the same division. But if there's one thing that the Eagles and the Washington Commanders have in common is we both hate the Cowboys. So I was glad to see the Cowboys lose. So if you're a Cowboys fan, I apologize, but it's going to be an incredible week. Today, I want to talk to you about hiring, and I want to talk about how do you hire good people? Because I'd love to pick your brain. I think it's one of the hardest things to do in business, but it is the key to success if you want to build anything big. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to share with you some things I've learned in my hiring journey. I've hired hundreds of people, have failed at a lot of hires, have had success with some hires. So I'm going to walk you through that. But before we do that, I'm going to cue this intro, and I'll see you on the other side.
There are no bad businesses. There are just those people who don't know enough to see the opportunities in the work they're in. If there seems to be no future or opportunity in it, it isn't always because it's not there, but perhaps only because we can't see it.
Good morning. Good morning, Melissa. She says, go Vikings. Not a Vikings fan, although I'm thankful that you guys took Kirk Cousins from us, from the Washington Redskins. I am thankful for that because Kirk Cousins was not very good. You can tell I've lost my voice. I was screaming a little bit too much, I guess, at the Eagles game last night, beating the Cowboys. So I was very happy about that. Brought all of my sales management into town this weekend. For most of you, you know that I'm a virtual company. So we were not virtual for a long time. We were here in King of Prussia, right outside of Philadelphia. But when the pandemic hit, we, like everybody else, had to go virtual. We're forced to, and we never came back. We've stayed virtual now. I have 300 plus employees in 27 states. It's been pretty amazing. I should probably do a whole Monday mindset on how do you lead virtually, because I'm still learning how to do it. And it is definitely different. So there are advantages and disadvantages, but so I brought my whole sales leadership team in. So about 20 people came into town this weekend. We went to the Eagles game. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is, one, I lost my voice, but two is we started talking a little bit about hiring, and we started talking about how do you recruit the best people, because if you want to do anything big in your life, you're going to have other people help you. Like, rarely will you ever accomplish anything big by yourself, if ever. The greatest people of all time, they have become great leaders of people, and they've hired and recruited great people to join them in their vision and in their mission. And so, how do you hire great people? What do you look for? And for everybody who's on this, most of you are in the industries where you recruit people to be in your downline, whether it's specifically on your team or somebody who's just going to be in your downline joining the organization. How do you recruit incredible people? And, I think to myself about the first step of recruiting is to be someone that people want to work with. And it's I've heard the saying before, if you want a great relationship, be someone that people want a relationship with, right? People so often struggle to get their spouse, their significant other, to maybe be the person they want them to be. And first way to, I say fix that, but I don't mean that in a bad way, but first way to address that and attack that is actually to look at the man in the mirror and ask yourself, am I the person that someone would want to be in a relationship with? So if you're trying to recruit amazing people to your organization, the number one question you have to ask yourself that I ask all the time is, am I the type of person that people want to join? Right? Because the 5 levels of leadership, if you're familiar with John Maxwell, he talks about the 5 levels of leadership. And like at that top of the pillar, or the pyramid, is this idea of respect, that people, they actually respect you and they want to be with you because of the person that you are. And you've always heard that your vibe attracts your tribe. So if you're suffering to recruit incredible people and you keep attracting negative people into your life, keep attracting negative people into your organization, well, it starts with who you are. And you first got to actually be the person that people want to be around. So I say that as kind of a foundational principle of hiring incredible people. But here's what I look for specifically. I'm going to talk about salespeople because I was teaching this to my team last night. I have some newer team leads on my team, some newer managers in the organization, and they're starting to join in some of the interviews. They're starting to be a part of some of the recruiting because we want them to be a part of, bringing in these team members. And I told them really there's 4 things that I look for in a sales recruit. And I have a myriad of ways I kind of do this, but I look for 4 different things for someone who is successful in sales. Now, I'll give this caveat. This is based upon my sale, which is a high volume on the phone sale. So my callers and salespeople, they're making 150 calls a day to 200 calls a day. They're spending 4 hours of phone time every single day on the phone. So some of you are on this live right now, or on this, you guys maybe have received phone calls from my sales team. So it's a high transactional type sales job where you are grinding it out, you're pounding the phone. So I give that kind of preface of going, the reason why I look for these things is because it really matches well with the profile I need for that position. But I believe in sales in general, if they have these 4 character traits, if they have these 4 things, you're going to have success with these people in sales. But your sale might be a little bit less transactional, a little bit more relational, maybe not as high volume. But at the end of the day, you need to put down on paper what your profile is that you're looking for. So a lot of people go into hiring and they go into interviewing, and the most they do is they Google interview questions, right? But they never sit down and actually think about, who is the type of person that I want in this position? What character traits do they have? What is it about this position, and what is it about the person in this position that will make it successful? So when you walk into your interview, you actually have some foundation that you're asking questions against to judge them in these brackets or these areas. Most people just ask interview questions and they use their heart and their gut to try to actually hire the right person. And I have found that, the gut is good, but any type of science that you can add to hiring, it's also very, very effective. So meaning asking the same questions to every single person to judge people against each other in the interview process, putting down on paper the pillars that you're trying to actually recruit for and hire for. That is a great tip for when you go into trying to recruit the best people. But here are the 4 things I look for in a great salesperson, specifically in my organization. One is I look for energy. So I look for energy in the sense that I want this person to be a person that lifts the room up. And here's a tip for you when you're interviewing salespeople. Do not go into the interview and try to make the salesperson comfortable right out of the gate. Meaning I interview virtually a lot now, right? So when I get on a Zoom with somebody, the natural gut instinct, because I'm a salesperson myself, is to be extremely inviting, extremely warm, very leading of the conversation, welcoming them in. I would encourage you, it's not that you're going to be cold. Don't fake being cold or being mean or anything like that. But you want to give this person a chance to show you that they can bring energy to your call. They can bring positivity to your interview. They can control the conversation. So are they going to be the person that asks a lot of questions, right, when they come in? Because we all know in sales, the person who can ask the most questions can control the conversation and can get people to ultimately down to where you want them to be. So I see a common mistake amongst my new people who are hiring or interviewing. They immediately go into their calls and they're controlling the conversation. They're making the person feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Don't do that right out of the gate, especially for sales, because you want to test their ability that they make you feel comfortable, because a natural salesperson is going to bring energy to the conversation. They're going to bring a level of comfortability and making you feel comfortable and introducing themselves and asking questions that make them feel good. So I look for energy and how they make me feel, how they're smiling, how they're engaging. Maybe you call it active listening, but that really goes to the second trait that I look for. So I'm testing their energy. How do they feel? Or do they bring me down? Do they bring me up? Are they fidgeting in their seat? A lot of times salespeople, man, they can't sit still, like myself. Can't sit still. But then the second thing I look for is, I call it sales ability or communication ability. So are they able to hold a conversation? Are they able to be quick-witted? Are they able to engage you in a conversation and tell a good story? They have the ability to communicate that pulls you in. One of the questions I like to ask when I'm looking at somebody's resume is, I like to ask them, hey, walk me through your journey. Why specifically did you sign up to work at Reminder Media, and then you moved on to X company, and then you moved on to this company? Walk me through what you did at those places, but more importantly, what caused the change in your life to want to move on to the next gig? I'm looking for a couple things there. Not only am I trying to dig into their experience and figure out their expertise and figure out what makes them tick, but I'm also wondering, hey, can they engage me in the journey of their life? A good salesperson is going to be able to intrigue you in, is going to be able to explain their story, not just in a mundane, analytical way, but going to really tell a story to you that's engaging. If they bore you with their own story of how they're explaining their life, they're probably not going to be that great when they're on the Zoom demo, or when they're actually on the phone with somebody, or in a listing presentation, or in a pitch for a sale. They're probably not going to be the greatest. So I'm looking for their communication skills to be able to progress through a story, to be able to intrigue me in, to keep it short and succinct, but also engaging. So I look for communication skills, and I test on that in a multitude of ways. One is asking them about their story. Others is literally, like, here's a thing I tell people. If you're dealing with salespeople and they have experience in the past, ask them what they sold, right? So if they sold home security, then go, hey, what was the number one objection that you got all the time at the close when you were trying to sign somebody up for a home security? And when they tell you the number of objection, whether it was they needed to think about it because of budget or partner, then go, okay, go ahead. Let's play out that scenario, because you've done that a lot, so you're probably comfortable with it. How do you overcome that? I'm going to act like the buyer. So, hey, I need to talk to my partner. Go ahead and overcome. And actually test them on what they've done. See, a lot of times when people are testing people on their sales ability, like, hey, sell me this pen, the problem with that strategy is they haven't done what you've asked them to do before. So they're going to naturally probably be weak. When you haven't done something, when you haven't practiced, when you haven't had experience in something, you're going to naturally be a little bit more weak. And so you can judge on their ability to even talk. That's one thing you could get. But you might as well actually test them on some of their real world experience. If they have experience in sales in their background, ask them what they pitched. Ask them what their number one objections were. And then they tell them to you, and then say, okay, we're going to role play that right now. I'm going to ask you that objection. I want you to overcome it for me. Because it's like this. If you hire a contractor to remodel your kitchen, I don't know about you, but I like to see some examples of kitchens that they've remodeled. I like to see the work that they've done. If I'm going to hire a web designer to design my website, I want to see the websites that they've designed before. I don't just go, okay, you're telling me you can design a website. That's fantastic. What do you think about design? What are the principles of design? Sure, that's well and good. But I want to see the literal, hey, show me some of the designs you've done. So think about it in sales. Be pragmatic. Hey, what do you think about sales? The sales process? How do you work a lead? All those things are good. But when push comes to shove, I wanted to see the site you've designed. Hey, what did you pitch before? Okay, pitch me that. Hey, what was your number one objection for that product you were selling? All right, let's role play that. I want to hear you overcome it. Because if they do a bad job at that, something they've been doing, that's a red flag. And we just hired a new VP of sales for our postcard division. She's freaking stellar. I cannot wait to see all that she accomplishes and does. One of the things she was sharing last night was, she goes, a common mistake of new people hiring is when they see a red flag, she says, never take a red flag and turn it pink. Meaning never settle If somebody shows a little bit of a red flag, if somebody shows a little bit of a lack of skill, our temptation, if we like some other things, is we turn the red flag pink. And you've got to understand, don't do that. Why? Because they're at their very best on that interview. They're at their very best in that situation for the most part, besides nerves. They're bringing their very best to the table. How do you think they're going to be when they get comfortable? When they get comfortable, they're going to get more laxed, right? It's natural for people to do this. And so I share with people the same type of thing. It's like, never settle. If you're getting a little bit of a red flag on an interview, it usually means it is a red flag, and it's usually worse than you even think, at least in my experience. So 2 things so far. I look for energy, then I look for communication skills. And sorry, I'm actually my Instagram cut off here for a second, so I want to get that back going for people. So I look for those 2. Then the third thing I look for, and maybe this is the most important, the third thing I look for is motivation and drive. Meaning, how do I tell this person has drive and motivation, specifically in sales? They want to make a lot of money. How do I make sure that this person is competitive, that they want to win, that they want to make a lot of money? And I need to see that they will overcome adversity. I don't know about you, but 98% of sales is rejection. So I need to find out not only from their experience in their life that they've had at past gigs, but also in their life of what they're trying to accomplish. Show me your drive. Explain to me one of your best accomplishments and why. Explain to me in your life one of the greatest adversities you faced and how you overcame that. Explain to me in your life what drives you. And what I'm looking for in these types of questions is not only to hear their story and experience, but I'm looking for, is there something bigger than just the money that will pull them through to make that money? I love hiring people with kids. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I love hiring salespeople that have some young kids because they have natural motivation. Natural motivation. When you hire some salespeople that have some kids, they have some natural motivation. And I always tell my salespeople, man, put your kids on your screen. Put your picture of your kids up there, because when you don't want to make that dial, just remember, look at your kids and go, hey, am I going to go home and look my kids in the eye and tell them I was too nervous to dial, I was too lazy to dial, so I can't get you what you need? No, you're going to pick up that phone. You're going to dial all day long with that type of motivation. So I try to look in and go, how can I understand in hiring somebody their internal drive and motivation? Because you can be skilled in communication, you can have incredible energy, but if you don't have motivation, man, I don't want you. It has always proven to be true that I'll take the hungry person over the most skilled person, because I can teach that skill, but it's very, very hard to inspire the will. It's very, very hard to do that. And then the last thing I look for, the fourth thing in hiring a salesperson, from the main kind of character traits, is I look for actual character. So I'm looking for energy, sales ability, so-called communication skills. I'm looking for drive and motivation, and then I'm looking for character. If you're taking notes here, I've really been like, in my years of doing this, I've really made some poor decisions on hiring. And it's, when I look back, it's because I didn't prioritize character as number one. And all the books will tell you to do it. Everybody, when you say it, it feels good to say it. But when you're in the moment and you got the skilled person in front of you, you turn the red flag pink sometimes for some character red flags. Don't do that. If you can learn anything from me, don't do that. I have made mistakes on hiring people that didn't have the best character. And the number one thing I say now is that, man, we have to hire people with character. One of the things that I think Chick-fil-A knocks out of the freaking park, if you study their business model, is they hire character-based people. Like the amount of applications they get every year for operators to run Chick-fil-A's versus their selection rate, and what they make the people do to be able to get the Chick-fil-A and actually operate it. Like, they hire for character. And it's really hard to do because you want the result. but you will never get the result without the character, because you'll never be able to trust what the person is doing, what they're saying to the client. Are they working when they're at home and they're not with you? Are they not working? If you hire a person of integrity, if you hire a person of character, they'll wake up and go to work, not just for you, they'll go to work for themselves because they're a person of integrity. They're a person of character. So some of the things that I ask people when I'm asking them to try to dive into their character, these are just some simple questions that I ask. One is I ask them, hey, how do you give back? How do you give back in your life? And that could be different things for different people. It could be you're volunteering at the SPCA. It could be you're involved in your church. It could be, you give back to your local community through working with the homeless, or it may be even something simpler than that. But how do you give back? Because I have found that people that have character, they are working for things bigger than themselves. They are passionate. It's not all the time 100% true that if someone doesn't give back at all, they have bad character. But usually I find that people who are people of character, they're giving back in simple ways. They're giving back to improve the people around them. Another thing that I like to tap into is like, who do you follow? Who do you look up to? Because you can learn a lot about people by the people they follow, right? What you intake is what you tend to output. And so, it's one thing to be able to go online and search their social. So FYI, people are searching your social when they go to hire you. Just FYI, so be careful what you post out there. But, you can go look at people's social media and try to get a feel for who the people are. But sometimes you don't see it there. Other times you see it in who they're following, what they do, what they look up to. And I find a lot of times that people who don't follow anybody, who aren't reading, who aren't into self-development, who aren't pushing themselves, it's not that they lack a moral character, but they lack a self-discipline. Right? They lack the character side of self-discipline and pushing themselves and making themselves better. And so these are some of the things that I look at when I'm hiring people and I'm interviewing them, I'm talking to them, I'm going, okay, what type of energy is this person giving off? What are they personifying? Do they lift you up or do they bring you down? Right? Are they engaging, or are they, man, you got to pull everything out of them? What type of communication skills do they have? Are they quick-witted? Can they carry a conversation? Can they engage you in the story that they're presenting? What type of motivation do they show? What purpose do they have for their life? Why are they in sales to begin with? And what are they pushing for? And if I ask them who they're going to be in a couple years, who do they want to see in the mirror? And then what type of character do they have? Are they a person of integrity? Are they a person of discipline? Are they a person who's going to do the right thing no matter what? Are they a person that's going to show up even for themselves? Even when nobody else is showing up, they're going to show up. And I have found that if I can get those 4 pillars to be checked, then I have a lot of great success with those people. But 9 times out of 10, if I lose somebody and I look back, I usually see one of those boxes we settled on. And you can't settle, man. You can't have mediocrity. And so you got to be the person that people want to actually work with. That's the first tip I gave you. So if you want to recruit incredible people into your organization, are you an incredible person to begin with? Because incredible people, they naturally want to work for incredible leaders. So it starts with the man in the mirror. Number 2, you got to write down what you're actually looking for. Don't just Google interview questions and go in without a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail, basically. So you got to put down on paper, what does the ideal sales rep look like? What does the ideal administrator look like? What personality traits do I believe they should have? What is it that they're going to do, and what do they obsess over and love? And then you look in your interview process, at least for sales for me, do they have good energy? Are they a great communicator? Are they hungry, have drive? And do they have character? And when those boxes are checked, man, you have a lot of success. And then the last tip I'll give you as I wrap up here, because we're already at 23 minutes, so hopefully this has been really valuable for you guys. One of the things that I see in new managers, and maybe I'll draw this graph on this scrap piece of paper. I call it the success graph, and I can't remember exactly where I learned it. I saw Layla Hermosi did the same thing. I want to say it's in a book. Right. But it's like, I realized like you can hire people, which I hire a lot of people, and you can lose a lot of people. And when I realized like, what is it about the people that are leaving? Is there a common theme amongst them? What is it about people that aren't succeeding? And I realized a lot of times it's a lack of clarity on where they're at versus where they want to be. And I'm not sure if that's making sense yet, but I call it the success graph. And I drew this graph on this piece of paper. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. But basically, if you think about it, someone might be at point A and they're trying to get to point B here. And they're at point A. what we fail to do in business and in leadership to keep the right people on our bus is we assume, and you know what they say about assuming, it makes an ass out of you and me. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. We assume that the person knows what's stopping them from point A to point B. So they see they're here. You want them to be here. They want to be here. Here is 6 figures. Here is the income they want. Here's the impact they want, the title they want. What's the difference between here and here? And you need to sit down with your team member and draw the success graph. And then in the success graph, you can put the things like maybe it's dials. They're not making enough dials. Maybe it's they actually don't have the skill set of overcoming objections. So it's closing skills. You know, and every position is going to be different, but you put the little blockers that are keeping them from point A to point B. And then what you do is you have the success graph that's going, hey, this is where you're at in the graph of success. This is where you want to be and I want to be. Here's what I have identified that is standing between point A and point B that we have to block and tackle. What else on your list? Because you know yourself even better than I know you. Is there anything on this success graph that you've also identified that we need to put on here that's keeping you from point A to point B? When you lay out for people the graph of success, it adds immense clarity for them. So now they wake up every day with what? A mission in mind. And then you take it from a success graph to what I would call a performance improvement plan or a performance excellence plan, a strategy to go, okay, we can't eat the whole elephant at one time. We got to eat it one bite at a time. We got to block and tackle. Let's set out our roadmap of how we're going to tackle each of these things. And here's what you want with that. You want a clear understanding of what you're tackling, a clear measurement of what solidifies it as success or not, and then also a timeline of when it's expected to be done, complete, where they've improved. A lot of times we maybe get to the graph of success here. We've identified the blockers in between, but we don't take step 2 with our people and go, hey, this is the blocker. Here's the measurement of success. So here's how we know you're succeeding in this blocker or not succeeding in this blocker. Here's the timeline in which we are setting for ourselves to improve this. Let's go get it. Right? That is another tip I will give you as you recruit the best people into your organization to try to keep them. And guys, I am by no means a master at this. You come into my organization, you're going to see I'm still trying to improve in this, but I'm just trying to give you guys what I'm learning from my failures, from my successes of going, yeah, man, when people leave an organization, it feels like most of the time they had no clarity on the success graph, where they were at to where they needed to be, the blockers in between, the timeline and the measurement of how to improve. If you do the work as a leader to do that, you will create incredible people and you'll rise in that pyramid of the 5 levels of leadership, because right before respect, it's replication. You got to replicate yourself, right? You got to create other leaders. So hope this has helped you guys. I'm trying to hire incredible people. I'd love for you in the chat, especially in the Insurance Syndicate. If you have great interview questions, if you have great things that you look for, chat that in as you've watched this video and you replay this video. Chat that in because we can all learn from each other. But appreciate you guys. Let's get out there and win for our clients, for our family, for ourselves. Let's make it an incredible week. Appreciate you for tuning in.